Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So, as covered in Friday's recap video, the main idea heading into Sunday's Globex session and Monday morning was to look for responsive buyers to be active at support, and the idea was that we could quite easily get a move back up towards the 99.5 to 2000 area and the 03.5 to 05.5 area, which at this point has already happened in the Globex session. And this week, the trade plan videos are being posted much earlier, so the Globex session is actually still developing. It's about 3:18 a.m. Central Time right now. So the overnight session is still actually developing, and we're at resistance at this point. But above here, we have resistance at 09 to 11. That is essentially the start of the breakdown move from Friday, and that is really the primary resistance area. But even here at 05.5 to 06.5, we could see some rejection and a move lower into the 99 to 01 zone. So at this point, heading into Monday's open, the main issue is going to be that a lot of the move that we expected has already taken place. The main idea of expecting buyers down here at support and looking for a move back up has already taken place. So I think that heading into Monday, we just have to take that into account and be a little bit more cautious and a little bit more selective on the setups, because there may not be a very wide range left on the upside. So from here, if we go up to 09 to 11, that's an area where we could still see rejection or a failure. Above that, we have resistance at 17 to 19. And again, we can expect at the very minimum some rotation at 17 to 19. A break above 09 to 11 would essentially tell us that the buyers are gaining control, and the breakdown that we got on Friday would be invalidated at that point. The market would have fully retraced and gone beyond it, so buyers would be in short-term control. Even now in the overnight session, we're seeing the buy side has been pretty dominant off the support zone down at 87 quarter to 88 quarter, and it's basically been a trend up overnight session so far. So heading into the open, we know that the buy side is fairly dominant here. On the downside, 99 to 01 is the short-term aggressive support. Below that, we have 93.5 to 95.5, gap fill 90.5, and if the bullishness that we're seeing right now in the overnight session just continues into the open, then the market doesn't necessarily have to go all the way back down to the gap. In that case, we may actually just hold above 99 to 01 or 93.5 to 95.5 and just balance at some upper prices. So that is something that we are going to have to gauge in real time after the open. We'll have to see, number one, where we're opening in relation to 05.5, 06.5, and 09 to 11. If the market is opening above those zones, then right off the bat, we know that the buy side is already dominant, and there may not be much range potential left on the upside, and then we could just balance in a range and more or less just consolidate the liquidation move that we saw on Friday. If we open below 05.5 to 06.5, then at least we'd have a little bit of room to go on the downside and tag 99 to 01, 93.5 to 95.5. Gap fill is a possibility, but again, that's something that we will need to gauge in real time depending on just how strong or weak the internals are, how the momentum situation is developing in real time. So whether we're going to go all the way back down to gap or not, that's something that's a bit of a open question at this point, and we will have to figure that out after the open. But bigger picture, we know that the market has sold off, but then dipped into some pretty decent support. In the event of continued weakness heading into Monday, the 78 to 80 zone is very solid, and again, that would mean that we have some pretty decent weakness on the day time frame to even go all the way back down there. Given how strong the overnight session has been, we may not revisit those areas. So we have to keep that idea in mind. And on the downside, we can actually look for some long setups as long as we're getting some decent location and we're not going against the immediate momentum. So, as long as we're not getting the NYSE tick consistently holding below zero and printing some fairly negative values, we can look for long setups at 93.5 to 95.5, or at the gap fill, and look for some higher prices, and even 99 to 01, depending on how strong the internals really are and how strong the other markets are. But the overall idea is to expect a consolidation or balance type session, and that's why we just have to be cautious on the location. On a balanced session, it's better to fade the edges of balance as opposed to the middle of the range, and 99 to 01 is pretty much the middle of the range, and that's why the zone would call for caution. 93.5 to 95.5 is certainly better location, and then of course anything below that, buyers can be pretty aggressive at those spots. On the upside, 09 to 11 is primary resistance, and this is really what's going to tell us whether the buyers are really gaining control or if it's just a short-term, exhaustion type bounce, and then we can balance at lower prices. If we take this out, 17 to 19 comes into play. Again, we can still get rejection or rotation here on the day time frame, and in the event of a breakout above 17 to 19, we have resistance at 21.75, and then Friday's high at 25.5. So those are our main thoughts heading into Monday's open. So just keep an eye on where we're opening in relation to pre-market resistance and initial resistance. That'll give you a rough idea on which side could press from that point on. And as long as we're below initial resistance, sellers can still be active. On the downside, 93.5 to 95.5, and then the support zones below are pretty solid and very key. So those are our main thoughts. Let's see how the session plays out, and we'll take it from there.